All right, let's talk about the Mortal Kombat 2 movie. That was fun. That was a really fun movie. I saw it in IMAX, so it cost me $27. Kind of expensive for a movie, but still worth the experience because IMAX is on a whole nother level. But it was such a fun movie. It didn't take itself too seriously, which I think was kind of the issue with the first Mortal Kombat was that it took itself a little too seriously. You're a video game adaptation about, I mean, it's a pretty serious story, but for the most part it's very campy, I would say. It has that kind of campiness to it, right, with Johnny Cage and everything. Of course, bringing in Johnny Cage in the new movie was spoilers ahead, by the way. Before I say anything about who died or anything, there are spoilers. Yeah, it was really it like I had said earlier, it didn't take itself too seriously, which I really liked. It was a video game movie for people who play these games, who for people who play video games. There was a shot with it was the Shao Kahn versus Cole Young. Cole Young, R.I.P. To be fair though, you are not in the video game, sir. So I mean, like your death was kind of what I mean. I didn't. I was like, whatever. But so yeah, Cole Young got his head fucking smashed in by Shao Kahn, and it was bloody. It was brutal. It was fucking cool. But the way that fight had started, Shao Kahn walks in, and they do the classic Mortal Kombat camera angle close up, and then it zoomed out, and then it had the knives or whatever they were, but they had them as like the health bars, and that was fucking so cool. I love it was a video game movie. It didn't feel as if it was trying to be a movie. I don't know if that quite makes sense, but it was a video game movie. I felt like I was watching a video game, and that was fun. It was a fun movie. It kind of had cringy dialogue, but it worked. It worked for that, right? But starting from the beginning, we start off with a young Katana, and she's talking to her dad, and her dad is fighting in or for her kingdom, right? Against Shao Kahn. If Shao Kahn wins, then Shao Kahn takes over the land. But it was a really fucking cool fight between Katana's dad and Shao Kahn. Obviously, Shao Kahn won because that motherfucker is cold. And Shao Kahn took over the Outworlds, and then had I think her name's Sindel. I could be wrong about that. It's Sindel, and then took Sindel as his wife, and then made Katana his daughter. But then, yeah, so the dad had lost, and fucking Katana comes up and ties her blue headband around her hair, and Mortal Kombat title screen pops up, dude. So fucking cool. You just knew you were in for a fucking bloody and visceral time because the dad's fingers had gotten cut off, and you're like, holy shit. But then, what I really love about this movie, especially, is that there's two protagonists. You follow Katana from the start, right, and you follow Johnny Cage, and very different protagonists. Johnny Cage is a loser, literally a bum, and he's kind of has that one hit wonder vibe. He wasn't a one hit wonder, but he kind of has that one hit wonder vibe where he's just a washed up actor. And but Katana's just cool, fucking badass main character that later in the movie you kind of don't root for her because she's going against Johnny Cage, but you feel bad for her because obviously she doesn't like Shao Kahn. I think Carl Urban's portrayal as Johnny Cage was really well done. I didn't really get the casting at first, but when you watch the movie, you're like, okay, I can see it. Again, probably there was probably more Johnny Cage-ish actors, but he did a really good job and it was really fun. Dude, when that scene versus him and Baraka was the fucking best scene of the movie, where he he's trying to get Liu Kang to fight Baraka so that they can get, I forgot the species, I forgot their name, but the village to go against Shao Kahn so they can sneak under Shao Kahn's castle. And he's going around saying, "Oh, you guys are a bunch of fucking pussies and all this." And then Baraka says, "I accept your fight," thinking that he's gonna fight Liu Kang. And then it pans over to Johnny. He goes, "No, I'm gonna fight you." And they just go on this fucking rampage, dude. And then Liu Kang says, he goes, Or no, Sonya. Sonya go again. By the way, Sonya, off topic. I'm kind of just ranting about this movie, but Sonya has a really cool fight scene with Sindel in the place with all the spikes, and it was fucking cool because the spikes were coming out of the ground, and Sindel had stopped herself from hitting the spike by using her scream, and it was super just freaking cool. And but Sonya ends up winning by shooting her powers through Sindel, and it like left a big gaping hole in her stomach, and it was so brutal. The movie was so brutal, which is, I mean, how a Mortal Kombat movie should be, right? You want, when you go into that movie, you want it to be brutal, you want it to be fucking bloody, violent. That's what Mortal Kombat. It's at the core of the Mortal Kombat films. But yeah, so Johnny Cage, he had fought Baraka, and he was getting his ass kicked. Baraka is a cool motherfucker. I love Baraka's design. It was super cool. I've seen things that people weren't very happy about Baraka's design. Thought it was really cool. I love that fight. He becomes Johnny Cage, right? He becomes the character that he's meant to be. He does all these acrobatic moves, and he fucking, of course, when he puts the glasses on and the Mortal Kombat music starts playing and then flips off the camera while putting up the glasses is so fucking cool. And Carl Urban did such a great job. I will say that his butcher accent from The Boys definitely came through, because he said the word anything, but it came out as anything, like he does in The Boys. That's all I could think about. You could definitely hear his accent seeping through a little bit, but it was a really good portrayal, so it made it worth it. But then he does the weird windy, I don't know what he's doing, flips into a ball buster right into Baraka's fucking dick, and at that moment you're like, okay, this is a really fun movie. It knows exactly what it wants to be. It knows exactly who the target audience is, which is what the first Mortal Kombat movie was missing. They had Cole Young as the main character, who was not a part of the original games, a part of any game. So you had him as a main character, and, you know, he had no flaws, pretty much. He was too perfect, if that makes any sense. He always made the right decision. I'm fighting for my family. He did it against the fight against Shao Kahn. I know what I'm fighting for, and I'm fighting for my family and all of Earth, which is fine, but he's just too perfect of a character. He's one of those characters that can't make a bad decision. So killing him off was probably the best decision for the movie franchise moving forward, if this movie is successful, which I hope it does. But yeah, it was, I also R.I.P. Jax. He's such a cool character, and the way he died was pretty brutal. But I like that about this movie. They're not afraid to kill off characters. That is what Mortal Kombat is about. Don't be afraid to kill off characters, because if you want, just fucking bring it back. Kano was hilarious in this movie. He died in the first movie, and he was fucking funny as shit. He called, like, what's his name? I don't want to get the pronunciation wrong. Quan Chi, I think, the guy, the necromancer. He calls him Pennywise, and he said some other shit about him, but he's so fucking funny. He low-key carried the movie. He's one of the funniest. His dialogue is so good. There was a dialogue between him and Johnny Cage when they went to hell, and their dynamic was so funny. And I like how he's so wishy-washy, because you want him to be a good guy, but he's such a douchebag that you're like, okay, he's a bad guy. But then if he was a good guy, you'd be happy with it. And the movie ends with him being a good guy. Also, I'm really excited for the Raiden fight. You know that they're building up for a Raiden fight. When he fought Shang Tsung, again, sorry about the pronunciations. Shang Tsung goes in and tries to go kill him. And they had restored his powers back by getting the amulet. And dude, when he flew up in the air, I got fucking chills. That shit was sick. I'm excited because he's gonna get a cool ass fight. There's so much to break down in this movie. I'm all over the place, so I apologize. But We also get a Kung Lao fight, Kung Lao versus Liu Kang. Again, one of my favorite. I think probably my favorite part about that movie was the Liu Kang versus Kung Lao fight because I actually felt the emotion. Which typically when I went into this movie, I'm like, I'm not gonna feel. I mean, any emotion really, right? I'm just going for sick ass fight scenes. But you really felt the emotion with this one because Liu Kang wants to bring back Kung Lao, and he knows he has a path to do so. So he does that visceral ass finisher on him where he fakes him into throwing the hat and gets the hat on the ground and then gets hit, but then brings Kung Lao down on his hat and the hat starts spinning. And it was brutal. It was fucking visceral. But you could feel the emotion because that's his brother. And later in the movie, when Liu Kang is fighting Shao Kahn, you feel when he turns into the fire god, which was sick as fuck, and he floats up in the air and he's all on fire. It was the coolest thing I've ever seen. Which I probably said that 3 times already, but it was a really fun movie, really cool. But when he's fighting Shao Kahn, he goes, "This isn't my path. My path is to," I think he said to save Kung Lao, or he said, "My path is elsewhere." So I cannot exactly remember, but that was a really cool scene. And then Katana versus Shao Kahn was sick, dude. I'm gonna show the people who you really are. Takes off the mask and does a fucking insane finisher on him and cuts his head into 3 pieces, and the fucking head slides off. Dude. It was so cool. It was so Mortal Kombat. But and then Scorpion obviously down in hell. That scene was really cool too. When he's kind of in his own little place of heaven where he's farming and doing whatever else, and Ken goes, this is hell. Sign me up. So. And then, but then it burns away, and it turns into hell. And then he fights Noob Saibot, and that was another really cool fight. Of course, he did the get over here, chills on that. It again, like I had said earlier, it doesn't take itself too seriously, which was a huge gripe in the first movie. You don't need to take yourself too seriously, dude. You're a Mortal Kombat movie, be a Mortal Kombat movie. And I don't know if there was a different director for this movie. Probably should have looked that up. But they did a lot better. And it was also cool to see this one in theaters because the first one was an HBO Max release because of a tough time when it got released with the pandemic and everything. And they weren't doing theatrical releases. HBO had a little run where they were dropping some pretty good movies. You had Godzilla vs. Kong was I think a few months before. And then, or maybe after, but then you dropped this movie, and I remember watching it, and I thought this was a really fun movie. I didn't know who the fuck Cole Young was, and he's gone, so who cares? I also see theories that he's Kenshi, which is, again, I think he's the blind guy who has the mask over his eyes and has the sword. I've seen theories about that. I don't think that's true. I think Cole Young's just done, which is probably for the best because I want a Mortal Kombat character to be the Mortal Kombat movie protagonist. Overall, I'm getting this movie. I'm going to give it... On Letterboxd, I gave it a 5. But I give everything a 5 on Letterboxd because I don't really rate movies on Letterboxd because everything I watch, I go, I like that. And I basically do that to watch. But on this movie, I'm going to give it about an 8. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. I was leaning towards 7.5, but because they catered to the gaming audience, that bumps it up to an 8. Fight scenes were great. Visuals were fucking stunning. When Raiden gets his throat slit, and then the light comes out, it was really cool. Shao Kahn, they did phenomenally. I like how they're showing the power of these characters. That was really cool. Also, when Johnny Cage got his powers in hell when he did his fucking legendary kick. Johnny Cage was probably the best part of the movie, him and Katana, so they did the protagonist really well. But this movie gets an 8. 8 out of 10. Go support your local movie theaters.